Hello, Savannah. Thank you for tuning into WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And welcome to my show, Real Estate Real Talk, with myself, Julia M. Spencer, and Daniil Ivanov here in the studio. Hello, Savannah.
Happy Gray Wednesday.
And we are back live, broadcasting from downtown Savannah near Troop Square. So if you know where our offices are, you can always come knock on the window and you'll see us there. And our show, Real Estate Real Talk, here today, we talk about anything and everything related to real estate investing. So we talk about mortgages, landlords, tenants, remodeling.
Our experience.
The real world, not the one that you see on the home TV channels.
Or the Instagram ads where like, hey, you can make hundreds of thousands by Tuesday. It's like, all right.
Yeah. The ones that buy $300,000 houses and have $50,000 to remodel them. Yeah. That's not the real world.
What we saw.
I'm sorry to bust your bubble there. That's not the real world. But here is the real world, right here on WRU. So,
all right. Well, what's another example was we saw recently, or somebody told us, not recently, a couple months ago, that there was some investors, they had about 100 of properties.
Yeah,
there
was
Airbnb.
Oh, it was 200.
Oh, 200.
Yeah.
And they were making only $10,000 a month or something.
Yeah,
just like, man, you're working too much.
Yeah, when I did the math, it was some advertisements like, you can have 200 properties and you can make $100,000 a month. And I did some math, and I'm like, that's not very much.
No, and you're working like crazy.
Like with those many, obviously they probably have, managers, but you got to manage the managers too. It's not.
You got to have HR department, advertising department.
I mean that's
marketing,
nuts.
Everything.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, but we are small scale, not that many properties, but it's plenty enough to keep both of us busy pretty much full time. Hopefully less as the years progress. That's always been my long-term goal is real estate. I do other things too. And by the way, if you haven't caught my show before, you can always go on my YouTube channel. It's very easy to find me, Julia M. Spencer. I always tell people M stands for the money. It's not really, but maybe, that was always my slogan back in the day. But that's how you can remember it. Just Julia M. Spencer. There's a whole bunch of videos and old radio
AKA
shows
money.
on there. Yeah, AKA money, right? And you can basically listen to the shows and watch videos of stuff that we've done and the failures, the successes, everything. And so you kind of can get to know me a little bit. I've been doing this radio show for 5 years now, actually. I've started exactly 5 years ago. October 4th was my first show 5 years ago.
Debut.
My debut, right. I was very nervous. I've never been on the radio, so this is my only and single radio experience right here in Savannah. And in our show, we basically talk in our little segments about what we're doing right now, what we've learned this week, maybe some issue that we're facing and how we've resolved it or how we're working to resolve it. And in between, I play basically songs from our current playlists, and we have some announcements at the bottom of the hour as well. And that's going to take you right until 1 o'clock. So hopefully you stay on with me here today on this little bit darker Wednesday.
But weather doesn't have there is no bad weather.
Right.
In the nature.
And Daniil here, of course, he's here with me every Wednesday. And also,
if I'm not running around somewhere,
running around to some of the houses, So we got some stuff coming up. I think topics are facing another refinance, I guess, and we're finishing. I've been saying that for about 3 months now. We're finishing a part. We're actually,
but there is an update on
our finishing. There is an update on our duplex on 48th Street here in Savannah. What else we got?
We got a little zoning. We've been dealing with 37th Street. And
we had a zoning issue last week, so we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that'll take us right until 1 o'clock. So that's going to be our topics for Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer and Daniil Ivanov here today. So please stay on. Don't go anywhere. We're going to play some music, and we'll be right back after this. So I guess we'll start our first segment with the zoning issue we had this week. I think that would be the most appropriate topic.
Yeah, I think we handled it pretty good.
Yeah, it was handled well. And let's talk a little bit about what actually happened. Let me just give you guys a review here. So we own a house in Midtown Savannah right here, and it is used as a seasonal rental. So there's not people staying there all the time, but when people do move in, they stay anywhere between 30 days to sometimes 90 days. We've had people stay a little bit longer even, but that's kind of like the time frame.
Yep.
So that kind of keeps us outside the short-term vacation rental rules, but it still is very much people coming and going kind of thing,
Yep.
at least several times a year. And so we're not there all the time. And at the present time, nobody had booked it. So we're waiting on our next reservation to arrive. And while we were absent, the people that owned the house behind us had sold it to an investor. And they, of course, came in and started remodeling. Now, what happened subsequently is we've been kind of watching the project. House is starting to look better and better. And there has been some issues with contractors parking in our parking lot. That was the first thing. And then because they were remodeling, they didn't have water or power, they started helping themselves on our house because we have an outlet of water right by our parking spot with water to clean their brushes, like for their paint brushes, as well as, I'm not sure if they use power. Maybe they have. I don't know. I don't even know if that outlet works.
I checked that outlet. I think the switch somewhere, but it's not. It's not.
Okay.
It's not hot right now.
So never mind on the electric, but on the water for sure, they were using the water. And not asking us any permission or even letting us know. The workers were just kind of using the parking spot and the water and just helping themselves because nobody was there to stop them, basically.
Yeah, and that's not like Teslas or smart cars. These are the work trucks, with a bunch of stuff. And there is a pallets up there. Trash was another issue. They're just storing the trash on the parking spot.
Right. Temporarily, they did move it, but there was trash, accumulating from packages, whatever. They were installing the cabinets and stuff. So
yeah, and every time, even though we have a sign, do not park, violators will be towed.
They don't
phone
care.
number, nobody cared. And then every time I pulled up, it takes me like 3 minutes just to park because I gotta honk, gotta move all the trucks, talk to everybody, and the workers, they don't care. I mean, they're just...
the workers are there for a week or two, then come different workers, Finally, I was able to get the project manager. And he basically told me, no problem, we'll move everything. He moved the cars, no issue. And at least the parking stopped at that time.
Yeah. And that was the water. We nicely said, hey, guys, if you need to use the water, go ahead. But you're paying the next bill.
Right.
That's not a problem.
And that's fair. That's fair. I mean, the water bills are not really terribly high, of course, unless they run the water like 24/7, which I'm sure they're not. But
nobody was staying up there, so there was no reason to separate the bill. If you guys wanted, water is yours.
Right,
so
exactly.
just pay the bill.
Right. Then that stopped as well. I mean, I have to add to that most of the workers spoke limited English as well, so it was kind of sometimes even hard to communicate. But even so, it's not their house, so they don't really care. The next thing that happened, which was, I think, last week, I think you sent me a message saying that there's a little strip of grass between my parking lot and where their house starts. And that was pretty trashed, and they ended up clearing it up, basically. Cutting the grass, making it pretty, and I'm like, oh, well, that's nice,
Yeah, they actually pull all the grass,
pull the weeds and stuff,
the roots, if there was any roots up there. But what was the issue? How they thought that belongs to them is before, when you purchased the house, there was a carport up there, and somebody framed it a little bit, not all the way, but framed it with a fence, which left like a gap of about a foot from their house
to the parking lot,
or
AKA carport.
Carport, yeah.
When it was there.
And it was a little strip which goes all the way from the street to the back of the house.
Right.
So automatically people assumed that belongs to them.
Right, exactly. So the next thing we see is somebody starting to plant stuff on that little strip on the front side of it.
Yep.
Also, they decided to start putting a fence there on that piece of land, which is plenty big enough for a fence, but it's going to be a new fence, but regardless, it's my land.
So what they didn't know, because I guess they didn't look at the zoning, and I don't understand how the investors don't do it, because we'll look at all the zonings before we even do anything,
exactly.
where the property line is.
Exactly.
So I guess the general contractor or whoever it was, or project manager, just said, "Oh, go ahead, put the fence. That's our territory." And the problem is, it's not their territory. The actual, not only that foot of the grass belongs to our house, it's actually another half a foot, which is inside of the building, actually
Right.
goes into.
But I think the reason that looks that way on the GIS map, by the way, if you guys are wondering where we saw this, you can look this up yourself.
Yeah.
So if you have land or property here in Chatham County, and this actually applies for any county in the United States as far as I know, there is something like a geographical information system usually that every county has. They use this for zoning, and it will show you exactly where your lines are. And it's basically GIS. You can type in GIS Chatham County, and you can pull that up. I think it's run by a software called SAGIS, SAGIS. So you can look that up, and you can see exactly the dimensions if you ever have a dispute with you and maybe a neighbor. So apparently our neighbors didn't look, but I, of course, looked because I know exactly where all my property lines are. And what you're saying right there is actually true. On that GIS map, it shows that half a foot of their house is on our land.
Yeah.
And we were all wondering, how is that even possible? But I think what is happening there is that the GIS maps actually take pictures through satellites, I believe.
So it's like an angle or something.
So when they look directly down, it looks like the house starts where the awning is overleaning.
Yeah.
But it actually starts a little bit further in. So the line goes right
by
at
the house.
where the house is, but the awning hangs over to our property line, which is there's nothing I can do about that. I can't tell them to remove their house, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I certainly can
Not
make
lose the
sure
land.
that the land on the ground is not being occupied by
And
their
and
fence
yeah, and
or
as you said,
plants.
it's like you give it the finger, they'll bite the arm, because at first they're gonna take that foot, then they're gonna put the fence, and let's say we're not willing yet to sell the land, but let's say down the road we decide to sell the land and the house.
Right.
Your land, pretty much the prices goes down because you just lost.
You
footage
lost
up there.
some square footage of your lot. And what Danielle is saying is this, I don't know, I think it's called statute of limitations. I'm not even sure if that's what it's called.
Oh,
But
yeah.
what I've read in the past is that there is certain laws that allow people to claim land as long as they've used it for X amount of years. And it could be a lot of years. It might not even apply to my lifetime. Might be the next generation. But if the neighbors assume all these years that that is their land and I never say anything, then sometime in the future they can legally just annex that piece of land to their property, and I basically lose it. And that's exactly what was my concern. And actually, by the way, dear listeners, we had another show about this before, because in the past, the neighbors have used our parking lot to have a dead car sitting there. And it sat there for a long time. And it was the same thing. It's like, if we don't have that car removed, at some point in the future, somebody's going to say, oh, that's my land because you never said for me to remove it. So by default, it's mine now. And there's laws for this. But it protects the people that are actually using the land more than the actual owners of the land. In other words, if you've had land, maybe acres, and you've been taking care of it and cutting the grass, then at some point in the future you can say, oh, I'm the one that cared for it, kind of. They would have a case in court, basically, to claim that land. So...
Well, and it's just coming back, just find whatever county you live in, find the website, figure out if you have the issue stuff, things like that. Also in the city, we do have the code compliance guys driving by. And even though their trash was leaning towards their house, they assumed that was theirs.
Right.
But who's going to get the ticket for this trash?
We're going to get it.
We're going to get it.
Because it's on our land. So
And
there's a lot of different things you need to worry about
So yeah, that's
regarding your property lines.
And again, don't just as an advice, unless you guys are already shooting guns at each other with a neighbor, don't start like a war. Not don't get the zoning out and print it out and start yelling at your neighbor. Just kind of tell them to research it too, so you guys figured it out together in the nice tones. That's
Right.
how we did it.
Right.
And the guy was very nice, actually. By the way, shout out to them. I mean, he was understanding. He didn't know, because that's the orders he received from the investors, so which
Right.
they shouldn't check it out. I don't know whose job it is to check it out.
Right, right. And they hadn't put the fence yet. They did put the posts for the fence and cemented them, so...
And then removed the flowers, but the flowers were nice. They could have kept the flowers. I know that was theirs, but
Right.
we'll appreciate that.
Yeah, right. Well, we can do something else in that spot now that it's cleared up. We can put some ornamental ginger plants there as well. So they're just like on the other side. But what I'm saying is we could have barely caught that one.
Because I pulled up, they started putting the posts there. They just they were mixing the concrete. I mean, they didn't pour the concrete yet, but the posts were already at the ground. And I was like, whoa, stop.
Right. I thought they did pour the concrete, but anyways, no, never mind. And then, of course, there was a concern. They put the air conditioner right at the property line as well, their air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, what about the air conditioner? I was like, well, technically, I think it is still on our land, too. But, that is another issue we're going to have to look at.
Yeah, well, that we need to look at it.
I think they're right on the corner, though. I think that's on their side. But with those old houses... And here's another thing that I wanted to add.
He was complaining, too, about it, right? When we showed him the zone and everything, he's like, where am I supposed to park? I was like, well, it's kind of not our problem.
Yeah, you don't have any parking with the house. And how am I supposed to go to the backyard? You can't get there.
Unless you go through the back door, right, through the house.
Unless, of course, Chatham County has some sort of ordinance on rights of way or something, or access strips. I don't know that. I haven't researched that.
Yeah, we can put the note and maybe
but
research it.
I have no problem going on my property to get to their house. I just don't want them to claim that as their land. They need to kind of ask permission. We need to be in agreement on this. In writing or something, don't just assume it's yours.
There was a little zoning adventure.
Right, last week, yeah. So that's good. That filled up our first segment. It's 12:27 p.m. here in Savannah, Georgia, WRUU.org.
Oh, yeah.
In the beautiful South.
Yeah.
And we will be playing a couple of announcements. And we'll be right back after this.
Absolutely.
So stay on. Don't go anywhere.
From our cobblestone streets to our stately homes, discover Savannah's maritime history and what makes Savannah, Savannah. One of the hidden secrets of Savannah is the Gardens of the Ships of the Sea Museum. Picnic here and enjoy our complimentary Wi-Fi. More information can be found at shipsofthesea.org.
Tune in every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. to Road Trip with Tom here on WRUU, a journey of live music to destinations unknown. That's Road Trip every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM.
Dr. Frank N. Furter and the Transylvanians are back at the Bay Street Theater for their 12th annual production of The Rocky Horror Show Live from October 21st through 31st at 1 Jefferson Street inside of Club 1. All shows are 21 plus. Tickets and more information are available at club1-online.com/events.
What does it mean when we say that WRUU is a community radio station? It doesn't just mean that we invite the community to create programming, and it doesn't just mean that we are a voice for the community. It also means that we are counting on the community to keep us going, and you are the community. Almost all of our modest budget comes from small annual or monthly donations from listeners like you. You get to enjoy our community-focused programming because many others have stepped forward to do their part. Now do your part by joining our community of listener donors. Go to WRUU.org right now and make a one-time or monthly donation. And thank you for supporting Savannah's community radio station, 107.5 FM.
Ah, the Beautiful South. That's actually the name of this band, The Beautiful South.
I wrote that song for you.
That's right. He didn't remember the name of the girl, though. Song for whomever.
I was suggesting to, after the Saxon app, to play the Afternoon Delight, but we might play it later. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't prepare the songs. I kind of just free flow the songs, so that's a good thing too. You never know what's gonna play next on the radio.
Freestyling.
Not even I know. Freestyle radio. That's right. So let's talk a little bit about money, because right here on Real Estate Real Talk, by the way, if you're just tuning in, that's what you're listening to. We talked on our first segment about zoning issues on my property here in Midtown and how we had a little bit of a snafu with the neighbor who didn't know exactly where their property lines were. And we kind of had to gently remind them to not put plants or fences on our property. So we had that resolved. Thank goodness. One good thing happened today.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is I am back in financing hell. And that's all I can say to that, because it is financing hell to me. I hate getting loans. I hate talking to banks. And bless their hearts, loan officers, they're people too, and they're trying to do their job, and they're doing their best. And my shout out to them and hats down to them. I don't want to have your job. I'm glad that you're doing this. I still don't want to deal with you, any of you. But I am again in need of a refinancing loan, and right now our interest rates are really high. So I wanted to share a couple of things that I learned yesterday, because I believe, you can sometimes learn from every person you meet. And this particular loan agent seems to be very experienced that I was assigned to this time. And he kind of shared a couple of things about how getting a loan and mortgages and financing on real estate is kind of like a chess game. You kind of make your move at a certain time and not another time, because you know something else is going to happen in the future where you're then going to do your final move. Now, I don't know how to play chess. I know you do. It's kind of like our obligation to know that as
being born
in Russia, that's kind of like our thing. But I don't know how to play chess. So you tell me a little bit about kind of the objective of the game, and I'll try to translate it.
Well, the objective is to win, but it's a lot of strategies. That's the thing. You got to think ahead. That's the main thing. Pretty much, if you think one step ahead, if you're playing with a child, it's okay. You're playing with somebody professional, they thinking 20 steps ahead.
Right.
Any move you make, it changes your strategy. So that's what I think he meant by it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just if you make one move, particular, let's say, paperwork he wants from you,
mm-hmm.
it opens, okay, here's your strategy changes. Now you got to get that paperwork
right.
done. But you cannot do that before you do this. And if you do this before that, you're losing. Right.
So and you're always looking to see what the other person is doing.
Yeah.
And you keep constantly adjusting. Of course, the strategy is to win, like you said. But the tactics, the day-to-day things that you have to do, you have to constantly change the path.
And different companies do different
right.
ways too. Like we ran into that a lot.
Yes. And so the last refinancing I've done, it took me 4 lenders to finally get approved. It was, actually I was approved before, but then the deal fell through at the last minute over some document that I didn't know how to provide because it didn't exist. But the underwriters of that particular mortgage company insisted that it does exist and I should get it, and it all fell apart pretty much on the day of closing, and then I had to start over, so that took forever. But the company that did finally close with me the last time is the same one I'm working with right now, and I'm also working with another loan agent that's local. So one thing that I've learned about getting financing on a mortgage, if you're looking to refinance or even finance on a home, do not ever go just with one lender. You will thank me for this later, because it is very possible in today's circumstances right now, how we are in business right now and how we are with the lending world anyways, that you will get refused. So in that case, you better have already started working with another lender and have like somebody in the back pocket who's already got some of that same information. And you're going to have to send the same information to all of them. So you might as well send an extra email or 2 or 3 emails instead of one. Don't put all your eggs in the same basket to think that somebody's going to approve you, because likely that's not going to happen, especially not for investors.
Yeah,
or if you're self-employed. That's very difficult.
And if you're on the time limit too, because it does take sometimes 3 weeks, that's probably the shortest way, but sometimes it might take longer. And if you put all your eggs in one basket,
Right.
And then you're counting on it. And
It's going to fall apart and you have to start over. And if you're on a time crunch, you have like a sales contract that expires and you have to get financing by a certain date, then, you might lose the sale. And that's very unfortunate. On top of that, of course, the loan agents are all on the time limit to lock you into a rate because our rates change every day. And right now they're going up. So they don't want to keep you locked in. They want to kick you out and charge a higher rate. So
yeah, call you in a week and be like, hey.
Don't assume that they have the best interest in mind for you always. I always want to give them the benefit of the doubt and think,
they work
originator
with you, but
works
they still
with
got to
you,
make money like everybody else.
Exactly. So
it's like a car sales, but yeah, they sound like they on your side, but they work off the commission.
Right. And if you've never worked or you haven't worked often, not as much as me, I've definitely had my fair share of loan people here in the last year and a half. But if you're not used to this and you don't get financing on property all that much, the way the setup works is when you put in your information on a website or you call somebody for financing or even a bank, the person that you're going to be talking to is the loan originator. It's basically a loan officer or a loan agent. And they're the ones that are tasked basically to gather as much information as they think their underwriters will require to get you qualified for this loan. And then from that point onward, then you work towards providing backups and answer any questions. And that process can take up to 30 days. In my case, it took 90 days. And I don't know how long it's going to take this time. We'll see. But they're the ones basically that are responsible to gather your tax returns, your income verification, information about properties you own, the mortgage payments on those, taxes, insurance, everything that you own. Basically set up and paint as accurately as possible your financial picture and present that to the underwriter, which is basically somebody who works for the bank who guarantees this loan. This is called the underwriter. Now, you can't directly talk to the underwriter. This is what I've learned last time going through this. They're actually not legally allowed to talk to you as the person applying. You have to go through the originator. Sometimes they're separate entities. Sometimes they're people that are working for like a bank or a mortgage company together in the same building, but you'll never reach the underwriter. That's actually what I understood against the law, that you talk to them directly because they don't want to take sides. They just want to look at data. And so that's the process that we're on right now. I'm working with a very good originator. He's trying to gather all this information and present that picture and come up with questions that the underwriter may ask to eliminate this back and forth between me and the underwriters and get this loan approved as quickly as possible.
And a little life hack, if you trying to get the loan or refinancing during the tax period, don't file your taxes yet.
Right.
talk to the guys
Talk
first.
to your guys because especially if you have flexibility in how you file your taxes, because there's different ways to do different things, especially for self-employed. There's deductions that sometimes can be applied on this side or on that side. And if you have more than one business, that's another thing. Where do you apply, for example, a telephone expense? It might be better to apply it on this side, this business versus the other one, because the other one would take a loss while this one has a gain. I mean, it's basically chess mania.
It's a chess game.
Mania. Yeah, it really is. And so you have to understand, and this is another thing, it would be really useful to you. I was asked this question yesterday in a phone call. Why don't you get a tax professional to do your taxes for you? And I said, why would I do that? I would have to pay them $100 an hour, which is more than I've ever made working for anybody. My taxes take extraordinarily long to do because I have so many properties and so many things that I do. I know my business really well, and I know where everything is. I would have to spend the exact same amount of time gathering all this information and presenting it to my tax professional just for them to put it into some program, print it out, and send it in. I might as well just do it myself.
Yeah, and that person who asked the question was me. I'm asking it every day because she looks like she's working in an accounting office.
I am.
She just sits at the computer doing taxes
But I know
every
what's
day.
going on at least. Somebody will ask me, where did you get online blah, 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 on schedule blah, blah, blah. Where did you get that number? And I look at it. It might take me a minute, but I'll know exactly where that number came from. So, and
pulled something 2 years back for like $35 or something at Home Depot. It was like, where that came from?
Yeah,
It was just like, it was just a weird number. It was like,
Oh yeah, and there's the good thing about doing your own taxes. You find stuff that you didn't actually know was there. For example, I would have never even seen this. So we have one property in Atlanta that has an internet bill that's automatically deducted every month. This is a rental property, right? You can tell that story.
Yeah, no, I just remember it was AT&T who provider of the internet,
Right.
and you called it out because you told me to call him because apparently it's being taxed now, and you haven't been taxed.
That's one thing. And the other thing is that we didn't actually know that we had limited internet at that house.
Yes, which we're paying for unlimited.
That's
And
what we thought.
That's what the plan is, and that's what we thought.
Right.
But apparently we reached the cap, and they start charging us.
Per gigabyte over that cap. Right.
And when we called them, we was like, well, why we never had the charge? It was like, oh, you never had unlimited. I was like, but I was paying for unlimited. They're like, well, you never reached that cap. And just so happened this month, you guys reached it.
And so we got charged an extra $100 or something.
And then she's just like, well, because you have a fiber now, so now it's true unlimited. We were just like,
now it's unlimited. But those little things like being charged extra, I would have never caught it unless I had done my own taxes.
And on another thing, because they thought that I moved, because I'm actually moved majority of the time. I'm staying in Savannah, but my residence is Atlanta or Conyers. But they thought that I moved, and because the taxes are different from county to county where you live,
right?
That's something. If you do the same, if you're in the same situation like I am, there my residence is there, but I live here. Don't assume that that's what is going on. Double check, because they took upon themselves to move me to Chatham County. And Chatham County charges more taxes than Rockdale County.
Because your mailing address changed.
Yes, so it's and that's what you're coming from if you do your own taxes.
That's the stuff you see, yeah.
So
we were charged taxes 1 month and then not the next month, and I'm like,
Yeah, like what's going on? I mean, and it's maybe okay if you're not being charged, but you don't want to explain it to IRS like, oh, I'm not being charged, so that's fine.
Right,
So
right, yeah.
So
the way they explain it to me is that different counties in the state of Georgia tax internet differently. Some do and some don't. Don't quote me on this. That's exactly though what the AT&T representative told me on the phone. So little things like that. You kind of need to know these things as you run a business. Not a big deal on the taxes. It's a little bit of a big deal on the limited versus unlimited internet.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff that I find when I do my own taxes, and I kind of like to have control over that. You know, call me a control freak, whatever. But I like to have control over where my money goes.
No, but you're right, because especially, well, think about it. We had the guests who were like IT guys. We had it on 37th Street, stayed with us for 3 months. I mean, they look like a IT department moved in that house.
I know, they had like 5-6 computers going.
They moved the server up there. So if we didn't have unlimited internet, next thing you're gonna have like $600 bill on top of your regular bill.
Right, exactly.
So you might want to let your guests know, if you're renting and stuff like that, that hey, if you have a cap, if you guys go over that cap, that's going to be on you. Like the same thing with electricity we deal with when we go to Mexico.
Right.
They warn you, we have a cap, so much electricity, and they see you can run. After that, it's on you.
Right, exactly.
So double check, yeah.
Yeah, so we have to pay extra for the power there as well. So what I was trying to say with new endeavor of trying to refinance is also that, as far as going back to the chess playing, the way it was explained to me is that interest rates right now are really, really high. So I believe they're around 7% actually, which is crazy. I've never paid that much in interest for a home loan.
Yeah, and it was like 3.2, Ivan told me, in Atlanta, and that was 8 months ago.
That was 8 months ago, yeah. Interest rates been rising like crazy. So, but what I was explained is that it is best in this kind of environment to, if you need finance, is actually really, when your interest rates are really, really high, that actually also means that your equity is also really high. There's a correlation. So this is actually a really good time to refinance to get your equity out, because home prices are going to adjust as well. So we've been going up and up and up in values of homes. and the interest rates going up, inflation affects both of those things at the same rate.
Absolutely, and that's what we just saw. People moving out, people who are renting,
Right.
because landlords not renewing their lists.
Yeah, why would you renew if you can get somebody else who pays more?
Yeah.
And so inflation is affecting everything. It affects your interest rate, and it affects the equity in your home. So even though the interest rate might be really, really high right now, also your equity is really high, so you can get a higher loan.
Yeah, don't be scared. If you
Hold
just
on to that for a while. Don't get sticker shock. This is what I was told literally yesterday. And then try to term or mod your loan later. This is what I was explained to me. This is not getting cash out of the loan or changing anything other than the term or the rate. So basically, if you owe $90,000, you still get a loan for $90,000, but you're changing how long it will take you to pay it off and the rate, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. And also what I was told is that generally the period of rates going up and down go between 12 and 24 months. So, and typically in the past, during election season, interest rates go down. That's just the way it is. It's always been that way. It doesn't matter who's being elected or who's in power right now, but when there's an election season, interest rates go down. So we can assume that within the next 12 to 24 months, the rates will change for the better. So now is a good time to get your equity out, and then 12 months to 24 months, refinance again.
Yep.
So that's kind of like the chess game that has been displayed to me. And if you go with a big lender, which is who I'm working with right now, I'm actually working with a local one as well as a big national lender. The national lenders, the advantage of those is once you're already with them for another loan, for example, a lot of them give you a lot of incentives to finance with them again. They already know your history. They're likely servicing your loan also. And if you don't know what that means, it's basically there's the originators, the banks that actually provide the loan, the underwriters guarantee the loan, and then a lot of times the mortgage is being serviced by somebody yet different. But in this case, because it's a national lender, they actually are originating, underwriting, and also servicing this loan. So I actually make the payment to the same company that financed it. And it's an all online thing. People work from home. So they don't have like a large overhead in terms of building and structures and infrastructure they have to pay for.
TPS reports.
Right. Right. They can give you these incentives. They can provide those to returning customers. And in my case, for example, I was offered a free appraisal or a reduced price appraisal, as well as a lender credit for being a repeat customer. So I'm working with my loan officer right now to get up. I think he said he could translate up to $3,000 to $4,000 in savings versus going with somebody else on the closing, which is amazing. So that is kind of the thing that you want to go with, because you basically, if you can refinance for a cheaper amount of money later on, or just modify your mortgage or change the term, then that won't make it so painful to sign up for a mortgage that's 7% or more, even what the rates are right now. That's the process we're in right now.
Yeah. Well, another thing what we learned actually going still with refinancing about your credit score. We thought.
Let me tell you a little bit about that. So as far as credit scores, so we only have about 5 minutes, so I'm going to just throw that out. We're going to have to do another show on this. Right. When credit companies or banks or loan lenders basically pull your credit, you always assumed in the past that you'll pull it from the 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Mm-hmm. However, what I've learned yesterday is
what your Credit Karma says.
What you think Credit Karma says, or those websites that those lenders, is not actually your credit score. Your credit score might actually be a lot lower according to what your insurance credit score is. And that one is maintained by LexisNexis, I believe. And so what the lenders do, the mortgage bankers, they will pull from the insurance agency's insurability score and combine that, and I don't know the formula, with the actual 3 credit scores and come up with a number that a lot of times is a lot lower. And because I had an accident, and I had an accident.
You weren't in the car, but
I wasn't in the car, but it was my car, so it counted against me.
And it was
a total loss. It was not my fault, but it was a total loss. But the insurance companies don't care who's at fault; they have to pay. and that counts against you. So, and if you have more than one claim in the last 4, 5, 6 years, if you had a windshield that was destroyed. So basically, you're going to get hurt if you use the insurance that you pay for.
Yeah.
On your credit score. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And we're going to make another show about this. I think this is highly unfair. That's the way it is. But what the most unfair thing is about this, I didn't even know about this until yesterday, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that
we'll
a little
research
bit more.
a little bit
we'll
more.
research it more. We'll
Yeah.
maybe get somebody on the show that can explain this a little bit better. That kind of is an eye-opener, and not for the good way. So
No.
anyways, we are at the top of the hour now. You're listening to Real Estate Real Talk with Julia M. Spencer and Daniil Ivanov. Again, my shows are usually republished on my YouTube channel, Julia M. Spencer. Also, you can go to the WRUU.org website. You can go to archives Wednesday, scroll down to about noonish. You'll see my beautiful face there. And my old shows will also be posted there if you just caught the last part of this. On this show, we talk about anything and everything related to real estate investing. Today's show, we talked about zoning, refinancing. Actually, those are the only 2 topics we got to today.
Yeah, we kind of completely opened the whole.
We opened a can of worms. But, financing is such a complicated topic. We can talk a long time about it.
And we actually want to get somebody as a guest who works in that particular area, because it's a lot of questions we have, and I bet you people have too. And
us, or me and you, actually being in this business, we still have these questions. I can only imagine people that get financing maybe once or twice in their lifetime.
Oh, it's just their first time.
They're just completely baffled. It's basically running against the wall and going like, what? So anyways, so that brings us to the top of the hour. We'll play one more song, and hopefully you will join us again next week. Wednesday is my show, Real Estate Real Talk, at 12:06, right after the happiness message.
So far, we're in town.
Right. And I hope everybody has an amazing Wednesday afternoon. Hopefully the sun will come out a little bit.
Yep. And you stay real estate.
Stay real estate, Savannah. Have a great Wednesday. Bye-bye.
For your free guide to real estate investing, visit juliamspencer.com.